Welcome, nice to see you all, especially the virgins. I've been to two, so I'm not a virgin, but I'm not an nymphomaniac either. But it might happen. It can be addictive, I'm told. So, okay, I'm here to talk about short film. I'm Glyn Carter, and for the last 4 years I've written and produced some 17 short films or sketches. Several have been selected for festivals. One was shown at Cannes Short Film Corner, which is a sort of festival within the main festival. The first film I made starred a toy BMW car which gets lost in the Delaware Pavilion. And the most recent is a kind of modern fairy tale about an old man and a schoolgirl who argue about an object that they find. Who found it first? He thinks it's gold, she thinks it's a halo. Which is a bit of fun, and I'm in the post-production for it, and I hope that that'll get into festivals too. I've done comedies, horror, straight drama. I've done a thriller about a retired gangster called The Gunman, starring Gordon Kennedy. You might recognise him there. He was the chef in the ITV Halcyon series and was in T2 Trainspotting. So I'm kind of moving upwards here. It's been in a couple of festivals, and it was picked up by Short TV, which is an online TV platform, unfortunately not available in England. Now that makes it a relatively rare beast in the world of short film. It's a film which has actually made some money. And by made some money, I don't mean made a profit. I mean it's actually generated a wee bit of income. A profit. I'm not giving you this background to blow my own trumpet. I'm saying it to demonstrate that I've been in the world for 3 to 4 years. I know the terrain. And recently I've been thinking about it, and I've been thinking, developed kind of a theory, if you like, to do with the way the medium of film has been led by technology and what the implications are for that possibly over the next few years. So movie making started, of course, with short films. The Lumiere brothers and their famous train arriving at the station, and the audiences. So you're running from terror, aren't you? Now, this if you don't know the story, when this was shown, they actually ran out the back because they thought they were going to be run over by a train. That was in 1896. Georges Méliès and others, he's off screen here, he kind of pioneered filmmaking as an art, telling stories. And if you haven't seen Scorsese's film Hugo, watch it. It's about looking back at Georges Méliès. This 1902, The Trip to the Moon. And he invented some of the language of film that we kind of take for granted, like the cut. And the way cuts can compress time, and the close-up and the special effect, they had to be invented. They're not natural. The first decade of the 20th century saw animations. This is 1908. I'm not quite sure what it is either. And documentaries and travelogues were very popular because only the filthy rich could actually travel very far from home. This is Moscow in Winter, a still from it, also 1908. There was a flowering of comedies because the short form works so well for comedy format. I've cheated here. This is from Steamboat Bill, Buster Keaton. It's actually not short, it's a feature, but it's too good, isn't it? Not to use. So technology progressed, allowing mass production of prints, and it became worthwhile to build dedicated cinemas rather than using the theatres, circuses and the like that had been used before. And obviously the cinemas sort of grow up in scale. European emigres moved to New York and set up a film industry in New York, and then they moved over to California for the kind of year-round sunshine and the lack of trade unions. And serious money began to flow, and technology brought us the talkies. Al Johnson, the jazz singer, famous as the first talkie, 1927. Actually, it wasn't the first talkie, it was the first feature-length talkie. The first talkie that uses the technology that became standard was a short called The Arsonist, which was made in Germany and shown in 1922, 5 years before Al Johnson. But it's a short, so it's kind of lost to history. Do you know IMDb, the Internet Movie Database? It's a file of lots of films and user-generated content. The entry for The Arsonist is there. It doesn't mention that it's actually the first talking film that was shown publicly. I've tried to correct that. But for short films, the key change that had already happened. It wasn't the talkies. The key change was the dramatic feature-length film. 1906, the first dramatic feature-length film. No surprise, perhaps, that it was a Western. Bit more of a surprise, it's called The Story of the Kelly Gang. It was actually made in Australia, 1906. And from that point on, cinema could emulate theatre and giving kind of long-form dramas that audiences could actually get involved in a way that they were used to. And feature films came to rule and short films became the poor relation. That's also cheating because it's from a feature. And a century later, short films are still the poor relation. They're no longer shown even as B-movies in cinemas. The Saturday kids clubs, which used to be a staple, they've died the death. And short films make occasional but very irregular appearances on TV. Went in 2014, that one really good short, but like there's not enough of it there. Last week, the Oscar-winning short, The Silent Child, wonderful film, was on. Don't know if any of you saw it. 20-minute film, won the Oscar, British film. Would it have been screened on prime time if it hadn't been a British Oscar winner? I doubt it. And if Oscar winners don't show films of that class, if TV doesn't show films of Oscar-winning class, like what chance do the rest of us have to go mainstream? Nevertheless, we make our shorts and we submit, that's the team that made it, we submit the finished product to festivals because festival selection is the key hallmark of the quality of what we do. So festivals, there's a pecking order of festivals. At the top there are those that you have to have been got into to be selected for the big prizes like the BAFTA or the Oscar. To get BFI money or to get onto some of their mentorship type screens, you have to have had a film in one of their list of 45 approved, just 45 festivals across the world, of which 12 are in Britain. You have to have been in one of those to get onto some of BFI's schemes. So it's a kind of an entry ticket to moving on in your career. One of the 12 in Britain is the Raindance Film Festival. They had last year 6,000 submissions and showed about 100 short films. So the odds kind of about 2% on getting your film into one of those top-line festivals. The next level down are kind of better established, smaller festivals where you might get 100 films or 75 films shown and maybe 1,000 entries. So it's kind of 1 in 10 shot, but still the odds are against you. Obviously, I say the odds are against you. You have to be very, very good to get into them. And then below that, there's kind of new festivals, there's local festivals, and there's online festivals. So you get selected to a festival, you go and watch your film, and they play to an audience of a handful of viewers, almost of all of whom are other filmmakers. So you get to talk to people like yourself. Very few members of the public go to these festivals. I know somebody picked up an audience award because he took along 5 mates and stacked the vote. Festivals charge a submission fee for entering, anything from £10 to £60, so they can be big business. But you're probably going to have to submit to a dozen or more to get a couple of those valued selection laurels. So it's not uncommon to spend more on submitting to festivals than it costs to actually make the film, because short filmmakers often make their film with mates kind of paying for sandwiches and travel and using kit that they already own, so they don't have to hire stuff in. So they don't have to cost very much to produce. A minuscule handful are picked up by Shorts TV, like mine was. Some are on sale via iTunes and other platforms, and they may make a few pounds unless they have a top-line star involved or director. Some go onto free platforms and they may get 1,000 or 10,000 views, but they don't make any money because the advertising revenue that you get from somewhere like YouTube is so small. You have to kind of be getting hundreds of thousands of hits. So most just sit on the web, on the website of the people who made them, or on YouTube and Vimeo and so on, unwatched because nobody knows they're there. Quick question, hands up those of you who've heard of Spotify. The majority, I would say. Hands up those of you who've heard of Vimeo. About the same. That's heartening actually, because when I've talked to other people about Vimeo, people say, what's Vimeo? Vimeo, for those that don't know, is like the Spotify for short film. I mean, you don't have to pay to watch them. Some of them you do, but mostly you don't. But in my experience, it's actually not very well. You're obviously a cultured lot, but in my experience, most people don't know the site's there, so how are they going to know what's on it? So good films, and even prize-winning ones, and I've had a few prize-winning ones, they're on my website and they're on Vimeo and they get a few hundred hits. Am I bitter? Do I look busy? Yes! You might wonder why we bother to make short films at all. Artistically, it's because it's what we do. A painter's got to paint, sculptor's got to sculpt, novelists have got to novelise, and we've got to create a succession of still images which, when strung together, create the illusion of movement. Hello to Jason Isaacs. Anybody? Okay, in joke. Like no other storytelling medium is as detailed and as realistic as short film. No other medium provides its meaning through pictures, which, as we know, is worth 1,000 words. And no other has the scope to use things like close-ups and panoramas and camera angles for dramatic effect, not to mention sound effects and sound design and music. And it's a magical combination, and we know it works because of the popularity of drama on cinema and TV. And we also make short films because career-wise, as producers, directors, actors, crew and so on, we need to have those IMDb credits and those film festival laurels as a calling card for progress in the industry. And that enables us to graduate to the artistic holy grail and financial security of features and TV and commissions. It's exciting if you get there, isn't it? So with more film schools rolling out more and more filmmakers across the whole world, ever more short films are being made. But they don't make any money. They don't even make enough money to justify the cost of promoting them. So without promotion, there's no wraparound cultural infrastructure, as I call it.
Would you mind stopping now? It's just making my eyes.
Okay.
Sorry.
You don't like Eddie Redmayne? That's fine.
I do.
So, without this kind of cultural infrastructure around short films, there's no mechanism for increasing the size of the audience. We've got more films being made, but we've got a static-sized audience, which is why it's saturated, the market is saturated, or for most of us, there's actually no market anyway. It's a bit depressing, really. But guess what? I think short films are about to enter a new golden age. How can I say this? Well, it's back to technology. Because for the first time, three new factors have come together. First is cheap production. Second is mass distribution. And the third is mobile viewing. So I'm going to take these one by one. Digital technology means that filmmakers can achieve 4K quality, that's ultra, super high definition, on equipment that costs a few £100s. Steven Soderbergh's latest film, Unsane, was shot on an iPhone. It's not just cameras. Serviceable lighting can be got that used to cost thousands of pounds, can now be got from China for a few £100s. Sound gear can be got on Amazon for about the same price, and you can get TV quality sound. Gimbal stabilisers, the sort of poor man's Steadicam, again a few £100s, and you can get those camera movements that Steven Spielberg and Paul Greengrass have sort of made de rigueur. Amazing special effects can be done on your computer. CGI is now a cottage industry as well. And this is some of my kit, the cheap lights. This is the gimbal system. Anyway, so this is a revolution compared to a decade ago. And expense is no longer a major constraint. What constrains us is talent and imagination. Secondly, in the 21st century, the internet makes cinemas unnecessary. I'm not saying that the internet will kill cinemas. The home DVD didn't. Neither will Netflix and Amazon. But what's crucial for us short filmmakers is that we can post online, so we're free from the tyranny of film distribution and having to go through the cinema. All these platforms are there for us to post and promote films on. That covers production distribution, but what about the viewing experience? This is the last element of my perfect storm for shorts, because the real revolution is not the smartphone as a camera, the real revolution is the smartphone as a cinema. Literally billions of us have smartphones and tablets. We can access the web at any time, we can stream what we like, we can download, and for teenagers, the smartphone is the primary means of watching TV and film. That's only going to grow. They fit with our fast-moving lifestyles, and we Google and surf through coffee breaks, I'm looking at that. I can look at this. We can watch stuff on trains, on buses. We can watch stuff in bed, and increasingly we do. Once we've watched them, we can use social media to share what we find, which we obviously like doing. And social media memes diffuse across the world. We've seen the future in its Gangnam style. We've been like kids with our new toy. But we're not kids, are we? And if we are, we don't stay that way. We mature, and we get tired of skateboarding kittens. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And we get tired of clickbait that insults our taste and our intelligence. And I know you want to know what happens to that raccoon, but I'm not going to tell you. And really, we start to look something more substantial. We like muesli bars, not jelly babies. Which is where short film comes in, because going back, we want bite-sized chunks because we have short attention spans or short downtime windows, to be polite. And film offers stories, it offers excitement, it offers drama, it offers emotion, and it offers humour. These are all stills from my shorts, by the way. I said earlier that the market is saturated. There's no audience for short film, and that's the conventional wisdom. But look at this. This is a science fiction channel on YouTube. Just go close in. If you can read that, that's got nearly 2.25 million views. Short films on horror channels on YouTube get hundreds of thousands. They're not that good, to be honest. I've looked at them. But they've got a fan base. So there is a mass audience out there, and it's growing, mainly with young people. But young people get older. Older people embrace the new technology. It's just there's a huge gulf between the audience and most of the world's short film fraternity. Something must be missing, and I think it's that cultural infrastructure that I mentioned. If you want to go to the movies, there's dozens of magazines and podcasts and radio and TV shows and sites like Rotten Tomatoes. Come on, Rotten Tomatoes. And critics like Roger Ebert and Mark Kermode become famous in their own right. If you're into indie music, there's any number of websites and online magazines and paper magazines and gigs that you can go to. But short film has no equivalent. Finding a film is a hit and miss process. Sorting the good from the bad is immensely frustrating. It's a depressing waste of time. You have to watch something to find out if it's something you wanted to watch, and you've got no idea whether it was going to be any good. From the filmmaker's point of view, it's like trying to sell a house if there were no such thing as estate agents. And from a fan's point of view, it's like finding a house by knocking on doors and asking if it's for sale. There's no dedicated online magazine or blog aimed at audiences. This is probably the closest, but it mainly focuses on features. It's just got a section devoted to shorts. Other websites that review shorts are actually online festival websites, which means they're selective. They're not open to anybody. They tend to serve other filmmakers. They're inward-looking. They give critical feedback rather than saying whether a film's a good watch. So if you're actually looking to find a good film, it's not very helpful. Importantly, they don't have search tools to help you find the genre that you want at the right length or the right time, or whether it's free to watch or whether you have to pay for it. So, and I'm not going to plug this, but I am launching a website called Short Film Reviews in June, which will do all of those things. It will have a search facility, etc. It's like a right move for short films. It'll also promote films on Twitter and Facebook and have a blog and podcasts. And you'll be able to press a button and get the comedies or the horror films that are there reviewed. Then you'll be able to click on and actually watch the film on a screen or window. It's about making it a useful tool for audiences, because we need to build the audiences, and this is what audiences are going to need to use. I believe that short film will become as ubiquitous online as news feeds and music streaming. There's a new phone app setting up called Black Pill, which is a subscription mobile app which shows web series of 10-minute episodes. Each series has a budget of £1 million, which kind of will put them up with TV in terms of production value. It's aimed at young people. There's going to be more and more of this coming on. And there'll be different apps catering for different kinds of audiences and demographics. Someone will emerge as the next Steven Spielberg for short film. Someone will say short is the new rock and roll. But remember, you heard it here first. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Glyn. Fabulous. It's a fascinating tour. I know nothing about short films. Mind you, that's not surprising. I know nothing about a lot of things. So, brilliant talk. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions for Glyn? Short films and... yes, there's a hand here.
I remember the short film before the main feature. I used to absolutely love them, and I'd love to see them bring back. But my question is, the one I really remember was I'm a big fan of Kate Bush, and the extended version of her musical video for Cloudbusting was just a feat to watch. It was absolutely beautiful, and they showed it, the entire version of it, I think it's like 8 minutes long, before the film. Where do you stand on, I don't know if it's still existing, where there's sort of like elongated music videos that were mini films in themselves? Would you class that as short films, or is that a different genre? Or
I would actually say that's the MTV generation, and it's actually using the video to sell the song. And there's some immensely creative ones, and I've seen that one, and it does tell a story, almost a true story actually, the backstory to it. But a lot of them are kind of much more. If they were done purely as films and they didn't have a particular song associated with them, you'd sort of call them experimental. There's not many music videos that actually tell a story, and very few of them that actually tell a dramatic story. And they don't exploit the media. They exploit the medium visually, but they don't exploit it to the full dramatically. I think that is a very strong exception. It's a great little film.
Yeah, I remember all the anticipation around Michael Jackson's Thriller video. And I remember that in the early 80s. Yes, question. Yeah.
Yeah, just time-wise, when does a short film become a feature film?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you should ask that. Festivals often say we'll take short films up to half an hour, and that's partly to do with the programming, because obviously, a 1 hour film is, you could have 3 20-minute films in that time. I think there's short films can be made at any length. Over half an hour, there are very few that are made at over half an hour, because they're very unlikely to get into festivals, and audiences. I mean, even TV doesn't do half-hour one-off dramas, or even very few one-hour dramas. So there's actually a big gap between about 30 minutes and sort of 80 or 90 minutes where features start. Very few people make films at that length. But obviously that length does work, because that 45, 50, 60 minutes is the standard for kind of long-form TV series. But I think it's more a question of, like, you make the film, but you're just not going to get it screened anyway.
So a classic short film would be sort of 15, 20...
Classic short film would be anything up to 30.
Anything up to 30.
A 30-minute would be a long short film, and 2-minute would be a short film. And as I say, there's no reason why you can't make a film at 45 minutes, but there's very few people do.
Yes? Jim?
So there's been I call it an argument that successive generations, younger generations, have a shorter and shorter attention span. Do you think that because of that short films could perhaps supplant feature-length films?
I don't think people have a shorter attention span, and I don't think feature films are ever going to be supplanted. What I do think is that there's going to be a bigger divide between your tentpole blockbuster features, which do mainly cater for the younger audience. So, these are kind of 2.5 hours, so they keep the attention going. And then on the other hand, there'll be the kind of lower budget independent films and shorts, which will find their output mainly online. And the one I mentioned, the Black Pill site, they've cottoned on. I think they don't think that one-off single standalone short films have so much potential as the series, the web series of like 10-minute episodes. So people can watch them in 10-minute chunks, but they're always going to be hooked to come back to watch the next episode. And I suspect that a lot of people they'll binge watch 10-minute episodes of web series, and they'll watch all 6 in an hour-long sitting. But there will be other people who will be watching those 10-minute ones on a bus, and their bus ride is 10 minutes, so it's just one episode. Or I'll watch one episode before I go to bed. I'll watch one episode in my coffee break. I think the same is true for standalone short films. Black Pill have picked up on the fact that you get more return visits if you have a series.
Yes?
Does that mean, therefore, that the short film genre is going to be more picked up by your mobile phone route than on the big screen? Because I go to the big screens because I actually want to be immersed in the film. And I don't really like watching those sorts of films on anything remotely small, not even on an iPad. I don't want to watch it on that. I want to be immersed in the whole thing that's going on.
That is pretty much what I'm saying.
So the short film genre is not going to be big screen.
No.
So
If you want to see short films,
is that a good or bad thing? Then?
if you want to see short films on a big screen, you're going to have to go to festivals, and as you do now, almost exclusively. And if short film, my argument is that because but like so many people across the world are using their mobiles and their tablets, short films like tailor-made for that format. And that's where I think that people will find ways of making films that appeal to that audience. People will find ways of building up that audience. And so that's the way.
You also say earlier on, though, that your jumping off point into the bigger industry is through the short film route. But if the short film route is only ever going to be shown on small screens as opposed to big screens, will that continue?
Yes, because what the industry wants to see is the talented actors, the talented directors, the talented writers who kind of cut their teeth and prove their worth by doing short films, and then they will get commissions. Or be taken on, given jobs, making feature films, longer form films, or TV series or whatever, which is where the sustainable income is.
Excellent. Another question here.
Taking your idea of immersion one step further, VR is becoming a very popular medium. To what extent is the short film industry reaching out towards VR?
A lot. The filmmakers are picking up on that.
So we're talking virtual reality here.
Yeah, it's a 360 with the gear, and you can kind of look all around you. People are playing with it. I think that the advocates of it are perhaps a little bit more enthusiastic, and they might find they're let down. Like, this is my opinion, like 3D. A few years ago, 3D, everything was going to be in 3D. You have to have 3D televisions. You get fairly cheap 3D equipment to shoot a low budget film, short or long, in 3D. Cinemas have the projection equipment for it. And now it's kind of like, nobody really cares because it didn't make that much difference, it enhanced the viewing experience. Some people said it made it worse because you get a bit of a colour drop. The problem with 360 VR is, at the moment, well, there's several problems, but one is that the resolution is on the one hand, you've got camera equipment, you can get 4K quality, super high definition, that looks absolutely amazing. And then you go to VR and the resolution is so low that people say, you know what, I'd rather have a good picture in 2 dimensions. The other thing, it's really difficult to film because what you have to have is it's basically a camera, a stem with cameras pointing in lots of directions, and then when you're watching it, you're like in the middle of that camera array, and you can turn around and see what all the cameras are looking at. Where do you put your crew? Where do you put your lights? And you turn around and there's the gaffer, and there's a guy with a boom pole, and the only way to get around that is to have automated remote control stuff, which is expensive and difficult to get the artistic effects. How do you do your crash zooms? How do you do your camera? It gets very complicated.
Yeah.
The other thing that people will do, though, is actually combine that with computer generated, like they do for gaming, and we'll have stories made that are completely computer generated, and they may have actors doing green screen stuff. Again, more complicated. I think it's got a long way to go before it takes off.
Fabulous. Any more questions for Glyn, if there aren't? Glyn, you're going to be here for the rest of the night, aren't you? So, come on, fine. One final question, then we'll take a break.
My question is just to say well done for identifying that gap in the market, and I wish you every success with it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So can we thank Glyn for a wonderful